All right, so I have here the proof of numerical caring. And this is evidently the greatest work you've ever done.
It is.
This is the greatest work you've ever done since your last greatest work.
Well, it's kind of like built on top of it, but yes.
But this is greater.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Let's go through this point by point.
Wait. I tell you, I have a big problem with this work here.
What's that?
Its name.
Okay. What's wrong with the name?
It's not worthy of the work.
So we need to come up with a new name.
A better name. A name that's actually worthy. Because what you've challenged me on already, I agree with your challenge. This is my greatest work.
All right, well, we'll work on that.
Okay.
Number 1.
I don't like the name.
We must care each day whether or not we hit our numerical goal for that day as a binary minimum. Binary, at or above equals success, beneath equals failure. All right, simple enough. Why do goals need to be binary? Life is not black or white. No, it is. There are gray areas.
Well, yeah, gray areas exist, but you can turn any gray area into a black and white if you decide to.
So, for example, you don't hit your goal for the day, but you have a great day because you had good conversations, or you make the placement or what have you, but you didn't hit your goal.
Well, there should be a hierarchy of goals for any given day. So on a day that you make a placement, that's a binary. You made a placement, and it supersedes all other minimums.
Okay, all right. And then the on the other side...
You just can't do that every day.
Sure. But then on the other side, what about those times when you do hit your minimum goal for the day, but you had a lousy day? You talked to as many people as you could. You had as many recruiting presentations as you set as your minimum binary goal, but you go home and you want to shoot your brains out because these people were all schmucks.
Well, let's not have to talk about suicide lines here, okay? But, in our last work, we talked about drudgery.
Mm-hmm.
There is no drudgery-free endeavor. And so if you feel emotional drudgery from your work while hitting your goal, that may indicate that your emotions are not correlated with what's necessary for success.
Your emotions are not correlated with what's necessary for success. So
you're doing the right thing, but you don't feel good about it.
Well, how do you feel good about it if you hit your recruiting presentations goal for the day, but they were all lousy? And you didn't enjoy your day?
By understanding that you're going to have to go through step by step, day by day, call by call, down to the single call, lousy experiences before you have mastery. Mastery doesn't come by snapping your finger. And so if you have an entire day of horrible calls, but at least you hit your quantity, that quantity is a success. It is necessary in order to ever get good. Yeah, let me say it a different way. What we're actually doing is removing luck from the equation. You see, when you had a great call, you had 6 great calls in a row. It's like coin tosses. Sure, you're going to get 6 heads in a row, probably followed by 6 tails, but not necessarily, right? It just goes the way it goes. Mm-hmm. What we're doing when we set a binary minimum is we're giving our heart, our mind first, but our heart as well, something that says, look, all the calls may have been lousy, but I made that many calls. And that many calls is absolutely necessary in order for me to build the knowledge and mastery I need. So if I'm having bad calls, that's part of the sacrifice I gotta make. I still need to feel good about the day. And learning to feel good about the day, in spite of how bad it was, it's a huge part of the kind of caring we're talking about here.
Okay. I'm good with that. All right. Number 2.
That seemed easy.
You did a good job.
Well, thank you.
Number 2. We must care each day about the impact of hitting or missing today's goal as it relates to the entire week's numerical goal as a binary minimum. All right, so that connects to the last point and what you were just talking about. Are you sure that it has to be every day?
Yes.
Why does it have to be every day? Why can't I have good days, some bad days, but they average out over well to good?
Okay, if on your good days you do 30% of the week's goal, and 30% and 30% for 3 days, then you only need 10% on the 4th day, and you've hit 100% of the week's goal. So you can have a 100% failure day, like a day in which you get 0 in there.
But on such a day, are you not caring about today's goal as compared to the weekly goal?
Well, I propose you desperately need to care about today's goal, having nothing to do with the weekly goal. That was point 1.
Okay.
That today needs to matter. Just for itself, having nothing to do with anything else. But here on point 2, we're talking about the relationship between one day and the week. And so what I just gave you was a set of numbers, 30, 30, 30, that's 90, right? My math is right, isn't it?
Yes.
Leaving only 10. Okay, so on 4 days, we got 100% of the week's goal hit. We're all good. We got 0% on one of those days, and we're okay.
You can take the day off if you want.
Yeah, you'd be better to take the day off than to show up and not do anything. You know, I'd far rather you take the day off. And if you show up, I want you to care about that day's percent of the weekly goal. So I want each day to be 20%, because that's what it actually really is. However, if you don't care, your one day where you get 0 done is going to turn into 2. And then that means we have to have on 3 days 33 and a third percent of the weekly goal for those 3 days. Or what if you have 3 days where you get nothing done? Then that means on 2 days you got to get 50% of the week. Do you see what I'm saying?
It's not happening, but yeah.
Well, it actually does. Believe it or not. When people learn how to care this way, they actually can go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, go, ah! Right? They freak out. They spend Wednesday evening like going berserk with their planning and hit 50% on Thursday and Friday and nail the week. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. All right, I'm good with that. All right, number 3.
Are you always going to be good?
I'm not always going to be good.
Well, okay.
Unless I am.
Okay.
In which case...
But I don't want anyone thinking this is pre-set up or anything.
No, I'm not here to, at the end, immediately agree with you. I am legitimately challenging this. I have some integrity. Number 3. We must care about the week's goal all the way to the point where we'll correct our behavior so as to hit it. All right. So, softball. I'm just going to give you a softball here because I do pretty much agree with number 3, and I think anybody would agree with number 3.
You might be amazed at the resistance I really get over number 3.
So why not just change the goal? All right. That's my softball to you. Why not just change the goal?
Okay. What's the goal actually driven by? The goal's driven by a placement. I don't care what number the goal is. I couldn't care less. You want to change the goal? Change it. Okay. Change it. But how does a day roll up into a week? How does a week roll up into a month? How does a month roll up into a quarter? And how does a quarter roll up into a year? And how does all of that turn into placements? And how many placements do they need to be for how many dollars? That's all I actually care about. You want to lower your goal? I'm your guy. I love lowering goals. But I can't lower them to the point where you're not making the amount of money you need to survive.
Okay.
That's what it's all driven by.
All right. So whatever. Yeah. It's not just the goal because, this is a good goal. It feels good to get this number of recruiting presentations or submit this.
Let me one up you on this. When I first encountered recruiters in 1993, there was a famous thing called the 4-hour rule.
Yeah.
Where you're supposed to be on the telephone for 4 connected hours, actually talking on the phone.
Yeah, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon.
Exactly right. I opposed it utterly. I opposed it all the way from 1993 to 1999 because I saw no correlation whatsoever. In fact, I saw a negative correlation where the great ones were putting in 2 hours a day. And the people that were putting 4 hours a day were the ones who were struggling. I didn't see any correlation. So I'm going, it ain't there in the data. It's just something that we use to hit people over the head with. I got converted after 1999 in the following way. What I learned come 1999, we're then leading up into our 2000 bubble, the dot-com explosion, and the bull market in the 90s ended. Then we had 2001 with the terrorism attack, right? So the bull market went away. And then I discovered the correlation after the bull market. I just happened to get started at the beginning of one of the longest bull markets in capitalism's history, right? And so during the bull market, if you knew what you were doing, there was so much demand out there. Spending all your time on the phone was unnecessary, and the great ones don't do it. They take their deals, they're happy, they go celebrate, they go work on their golf game, etc. The hardworking ones may or may not be getting it. So that's what happened during the 90s, right? Come the end of the 90s, and I start to see that coming through on the other side. Now we're in a bear market. Now things aren't going the way we want them to. It was the people getting more hours that were still getting deals. And so I began to see the correlation. Now, why did I tell you this whole long story here for number 3? It's for this reason. I did get converted to the 4-hour rule, and I wrote an article about it called The Great Divide in 2003, and I'm shocked. I recently reread it, and the damn article still stands. I'm happy with the article. I don't agree with its outcome as applied to today. That's a different topic. But that 4-hour rule had a reason behind it, but that's not how it was taught. And it did not apply during the 90s, especially not to the great ones.
Okay.
Applying that rule over number 3 would be stupid. Any artificial factor, anything like a truth, a belief, an old wives' tale, I don't care what it is, a manager's desire. No. Our goal has to be something that we care about because we believe it's important to us, not because we're applying some external standard. Sorry if I took too long.
And ultimately, a placement's what we care about. So if it's 4 hours, if it's 2 hours, if it's 1 hour every other day,
I don't care.
If it's leading you to that minimum level of placements and dollars bill that you need.
If you can live on 4 placements a year and spend an hour a day, 3 days a week, so it's 3 hours a week, I'm all good as long as your boss is good, assuming you have a boss, right? If those numbers are good for him, like the 4 placements a year, I don't care. I make no judgment about that whatsoever.
Okay. All right, moving on. Number 4. We must most especially care as the cumulative percent of goal begins to predict failure for the week.
Yes.
We must most especially care as the cumulative percent of goal begins to predict failure for the week. Okay. So how is that any different from number 3? We must care about the week's goal. This is number 3. So number 3, we must care about the week's goal all the way to the point where we will correct our behavior so as to hit it. And then number 4 is we must most especially care as the cumulative percent of goal begins to predict failure. I mean, this is
okay.
Very
and number
points.
3, what I have in my mind is maybe that 1 or 2 days have to make us work harder for planning. We get to 3 days of failure, we're up to number 4 now.
3 days of failure. Okay. All right. So this is a level of, it's a degree or scale.
It's absolutely a degree.
Okay.
It's like when, all right, you can correct for a day or 2. 2 days is much harder than 1, right? But you can do it. It's hard to correct for 3 days off. That's tough. It can be done. It can even be done, believe it or not, for 4 days of failure. You can come in of a Friday, a new human being filled with dedication, having spent your whole night drinking coffee and coming up with a new way. It's possible. I've seen it done again and again. That people somehow need to be shaken up by their own week once they start to care and they're going, you know what, it's Friday and I'm not failing this week. There's this intensity that starts to grow.
Intensity.